I got a little bit of this. Like I said, it's kind of a check-in. Obviously, since there's no record, I figure you're working on something right now. And I know you've been busy, too, because there's also restaurant
Check
news.
1, 2. Hey.
So, what's your life been like in the past year, 2 years?
Okay, so yeah, that's a good time to examine because there's been a lot going on. Well, 2 years ago, this August, I moved to Nashville, Tennessee, and so that changed a lot of stuff in my life. We did just record a record. It's mastered and ready to go. It's going to come out. It's going to come out this year. I'm going to find something to knock on here, knock on my own head. But yeah, so we're getting ready to announce pretty soon, actually. And moving to Nashville opened up a lot of changes in process and a lot of opportunities. The biggest one is that we recorded our record at RCA Studio B. And I'm not sure, if that's like a household name, but it's really like one of the last of the great original studios in Nashville that's kept open by the Country Music Hall of Fame. And that's where Chet Atkins basically produced all the big Nashville sound stuff in the 50s and 60s. Pretty much every country hit you can think of was recorded there, as well as all the early Everly Brothers stuff was recorded there, all the Roy Orbison stuff that was on Monument, so Crying, Only the Lonely, all that stuff was recorded there. All the post-Army Elvis stuff was recorded there.
Tell me you can feel the ghosts of that room.
That was really the thing. Every night, since it's a museum in the daytime, there was a lot of weird little things we had to kind of commit to do it there. But it was like a gig every night because we'd load in every night and then tear down so the museum could resume the next morning. Right. But every night they have speakers set up in that room, and we would listen to tracks that were recorded in there, and it was like, what are we doing? It's sick. And then, also being able to use the piano that Floyd Kramer played on, and the vibraphone that was you can hear at the beginning of Crying, and
the soul is in every bit of that.
Yeah. I can't explain what it felt like to record there. And it's also strange, like when we first set up and started going, the first day, like we were kind of trying to nail the sound, the RCA-B sound. And the longer we were there, like the louder and fuzzier the guitars got. I don't know what it was, but it was like something about being in there inspired irreverence in some way. I don't know. It was a really magical experience.
Like, I was just in Sun Studios for the first time. I took the tour with my son, and we go downstairs, and I didn't know anything about it. I didn't know we were actually, because I knew it was a working studio.
Yeah.
They still have people in there every night, and they're like, this is the X, this is where Elvis stood, and you start thinking about Rocket 88 and all that stuff, and the birth of everything. And I mean, I had that same experience and there's the drums that Larry Mullen Jr. played on, it's, I'd lost it, dude. I get it, just having that feeling.
I did the Sun tour quite a long time ago, and I can't explain what that meant. I don't know. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, for a band like ours that is really aware of and really informed by kind of historical sounds and all those amazing musicians and songwriters that went through there, it was like a huge deal for us. But yeah, so going to Nashville really kind of changed a lot of things for us. It was pretty big move.
Like the changes you're talking about specifically, I mean, is this just personal lifestyle kind of changes? Is artistic changes?
Well, yeah, moving my family. I've never lived anywhere but Oklahoma, so moving to a new city was a big deal. But then all of a sudden, being in a community where you'll end up meeting a musician that lives 2 doors down from you, and every other house has got somebody in a band, and it was. You think about like those real music towns where you feel like almost it would be like a real competitive environment, but it was the opposite. It was we move in and people are showing up to help us unload the truck and offering to watch our dog while we're on the road. Cool. And then that was another thing, is like opening up co-writing opportunities. I co-wrote with quite a few people for the new record. That was a really special thing.
Had you ever done that before on the other records? It was
that was a brand new thing.
Yeah.
Because when we were making the first 2 records, I lived in Broken Arrow, Oklahoma, and none of the other band members lived there. So I was kind of alone in my cave. But yeah, it was a really good move. It was a really good, positive thing to do.
Well, okay, so you mentioned a band that's very self-aware of that past as you're going into this record. You've got a brand. The sound has a brand. We know the J.D. McPherson sound. It's like, do you try to build on that? Do you play to the audience? Like what goes into this record?
There's a lot of things that will influence a record. The live shows influence your writing a lot. You start getting a different feeling. For instance, when Jimmy switches to electric bass, There's a kind of a lift in volume on stage, and that feels really great, and you see it in the audience too. So you start thinking in those terms a little bit. You start thinking about that kind of stuff. But the new record is pretty experimental in sounds and in songwriting too. So really happy with it. I can't wait to put it out. Some people are going to kind of maybe raise an eyebrow, but all the foundation is there, all the grooves are there. Yeah. So I really cannot wait to put this one out.
Like, I guess I heard that a little bit, like when I first heard Shy Boy on the last record, like that was my first, like, there's more to this than what you might think. And you talk very openly about your taste, off mic we're talking about you're a big U2 fan. You just covered Erasure. These are things that don't play into the typical world of the sound that you guys create, but I see, like, when you do A Little Respect, that's you reaching out and sort of bringing it back home a little bit.
Yeah, I just love music so much. I mean, I've always sort of been like a sponge for anything that comes along. I mean, I'm a huge fan of all kinds of music. Of course, my first love is early rock and roll. I love everything about it. I love the sonic aspect of it. I love the historical aspect of it. It was the first youth culture. Politically, it opened up all kinds of things. It changed, and this is going to sound really, like, lofty and pretentious, but I think it's true. I think that rock and roll music really, did more for the United States of America across the world culturally than anything else.
Sure.
If you say during the middle of the Cold War, there's kids with, long hair and Levi's in Russia.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's, I don't know.
No. It's culture that changes the world. Yeah. It's completely, I'm in agreement with you on that.
So, but it feels good sometimes to be able to kind of show a little bit more of what's made you a person, and you start noticing that's in a lot of people too. Like, all music fans have that, where a little note from their past might wake up something they forgot about. It's a good thing to feel.
Well, I mean, we're in the millennial age, where there is no more genre anyway, so we're
in the postmodern era. There's no more movements, there's no more abstract expressionism. It's all informed by history.
I can't wait for the announcement. I want to hear the experimental music, and what that entails. The restaurant too, though, I did want to get on that. Is that what is that about?
That's really weird. It just fell out of the sky. I always I have this list of unreasonable goals, and I think everybody should have a list of unreasonable goals, because you never know. You never know if something might actually happen, and something actually did. I always just said, like, sort of as a half joke, that I wanted to retire in Tulsa with a Belgian steakhouse that plays, like, Hank Williams music.
It's so specific.
It's very specific. So when you go, our band tours a lot in Europe. It was like our first tour, I think. Our third show was in Spain. It was like a weird. We had a real draw to Europe right away, so we were able to tour in Europe pretty extensively right away. And our tour manager / driver overseas is a Belgian guy, Tom Brandt. And we crash at his house. He lives in Turnhout, Belgium, and it's a great place to be because you're right in the middle. You can hit Germany, you can hit France, you can hit so much real estate from there. And you're like 1 or 2 hour drives in, you're another country.
Right.
So it's a great place to just kind of camp out. And while you're there, he takes you over to the local bar. And a lot of people don't think much about Belgium, but a couple things that you should know about Belgium, if you're not familiar with the country, is that it's the greatest beer culture in the world. They've perfected that art. Each beer has its own specific glass, but they've got great food. They invented the French fry, as the name would mislead you a little bit. But the Belgians invented a lot of really cool stuff. But the weird thing is that you go into a 300-year-old bar in Belgium, and you're hearing, like, Wynn Stewart and Hank Williams played over the speed. It's a thing. Like I was mentioning earlier, like, American music, especially like early roots music, has such a presence in Europe. Like, they really revere that stuff. And there was something grounding about that, like, made me feel like I was at home. Staying in Belgium, I never really felt super homesick because all this stuff
home
with
was
which I'm so
there,
familiar. Right? Yeah, and so I always said one day I would like to have a Belgian steakhouse that has hillbilly music. So a friend of mine who was a punk rocker buddy in college that you would never ever expect became a restaurateur and moved back to Tulsa and talked to me about opening a thing. And there's this little shipping container mall in downtown Tulsa, and he's like, do you have any ideas? And I was like, well, actually, I have an idea, this really specific idea of Belgian street food and beer and hillbilly music. So It looks like an Old West saloon / European bar, and with that kind of music. Yeah. It's a funny little thing. It just opened up. It's called Weerwar, and that means hodgepodge in Flemish.
Okay.
So it's like a mix of a few things. But like it just completely fell out of the sky. It's weird.
And you're in Nashville, but so you're just doing sort of
Yeah, I go back home a lot.
Yeah.
And I still consider myself Oklahoman, but it was kind of a cool. That's a scene that's really exploding right now. Tulsa, downtown Tulsa especially, is really a really cool place to be. And I notice a lot of like Nashvillians are actually moving to Tulsa. It's weird. I got out there, and I won't say who, but there was somebody from a really big rock band that's famous for being in Nashville, and they said, well, what are you doing out here? I just moved here from Tulsa. I was like, that's weird. Everybody from here is moving there. So I'm always one step behind everything else.
Yeah, look at you. Or maybe you're 2 steps ahead.
Yeah, that's right.
That's it.
Eventually it comes back full circle.
It sounds like a fun couple years, man. Like I said, I'm looking forward to the record. We're waiting for it.
Me too.
So,
gosh.
Now, that's always the hardest part. You record it, and then you wait for the label people or the distributor people to get their act together and put it in their schedule.
Exactly.
And so by the time guys like me come around to ask for questions, you've already moved on.
I would say that probably be hearing some stuff pretty soon. Like maybe within the next couple of months, you'll be hearing a couple things, I think. I hope.
Awesome. Looking forward to it.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, man.
Appreciate it.
All right. Cool.